What's this? A letter for me.
Welcome to another episode of Remember the Great Sports Through the Mail Thursdays. Today I'm going to share with you 3 envelopes I recently got back in the mail. This first one is postmarked from Washington State, and it is former Seattle Seahawks great Jim Zorn on 1, 2, and 3. I actually sent him a 4th. I believe it was another Roger Staubach collection card like this, and I can't be for certain if it was that, but it seems like it was, and he decided to keep the duplicate, which is fine, because he probably doesn't see that one all that often. It's not by any means a super rare card or anything like that, but it's just not your common run-of-the-mill Topps card. So perfectly fine with that. That's why I always include a couple extras for the players to keep. So let me tell you a little bit about Jim Zorn. Zorn was a California native. He played his high school ball in California and also played at Cal Poly Pomona Cerritos College, which I'm not too familiar with, and he went undrafted in 1975. He was undrafted and actually signed with the Dallas Cowboys and was cut from their roster in 1975 and basically sat out the entire 75 season. And in 1976, a former player personnel person with the Cowboys got a job with the Seahawks. He was so impressed with Zorn as a Cowboy that he gave Jim a call and asked him to try out with the Seahawks. Well, this was the page that Zorn needed to turn because he succeeded with the Seahawks being their quarterback primarily from 1976 to 1983 until Dave Craig basically replaced him midway through the 83 season. He would lead the Seahawks for those seasons, becoming their team MVP, throwing for multiple touchdowns. He had 3 consecutive seasons of 3,000 plus yards passing, which were tops in team history. That was eventually broken by Matt Hasselbeck in 2005. After his time with Seattle, which were his most flourishing years, he did become a backup quarterback on the Green Bay Packers. He also spent some time in the CFL. And he also was the backup quarterback on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in his final season as a player in 1987. After being a player in 1988, Zorn joined the coaching ranks at Boise State University, being an offensive assistant and quarterbacks coach. He would stay there through 1991, then move to Utah State, the University of Minnesota, and then finally in 1997, he would become the offensive assistant with his former team, the Seattle Seahawks, in the NFL. He would stay with the Seahawks for just 1 season in that capacity, then would leave to go to the Detroit Lions from 1998 to 2000, but then would return to the Seahawks for a stretch from 2001 to 2007. Well, after the 2007 season, the Washington Redskins called Zorn and offered him the head coaching job. From 2008 to 2009, he was the head coach of the Washington Redskins. However, he was let go in 2009 from the Redskins and almost immediately joined the coaching ranks again as the quarterbacks coach for the Ravens. After his season with the Ravens, he moved to Kansas City and was a coach with the Chiefs for 2 seasons. And after 2012, it doesn't really say what he did from 2012 to 2020, but in 2020, he was working as the head coach of the XFL team, the Seattle Dragons. And as many of you know, the XFL didn't really get off of the ground because of the virus this past year. So Zorn's still involved in football in some capacity. I would like to see him maybe continue to coach. That would be really neat to see that. But I want to thank Mr. Zorn for taking the time to sign, and I love adding his autograph to my collection. All right, so this next one is postmarked from Georgia, and this is former Super Bowl great, 49er great Randy Cross on 1, 2, and 2 Super Bowl Superman cards. And Randy Cross played his college football at University of California, Los Angeles, or UCLA for the Bruins. He was selected in the second round by the San Francisco 49ers in 1976, and he would play his entire career from 1976 to 1988 with the San Francisco 49ers. During his time with the 49ers, he would be a three-time Super Bowl champion, as you can see in the Super Bowl there. He would be a three-time Pro Bowler, a three-time first-team All-Pro, four-time first-team All-NFC player. He would play in 185 games, starting 180 of them during his career. He spent primarily most of his career at guard on the offensive line. However, at the beginning of his career, and ironically the end of his career, he was the center on the San Francisco 49ers. So very rarely do you see somebody move from the center position, play a different position, then move back to the center position. But so perhaps Montana trusted Cross a little bit more than others at the center position. So I think that's pretty neat that Randy Cross has, had that long tenure in the NFL. And again, this is one of those guys that could very arguably be a Hall of Famer someday, because some of the superb players from that team are already in the Hall of Fame, such as Jerry Rice and Joe Montana. Obviously, somebody like Randy Cross, who was on the 49ers during their most successful years, should be considered, as an offensive lineman to be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. So maybe one day he'll get in the Hall of Fame, but I'm very happy to add his autograph to my collection, getting a couple more Super Bowl Superman cards signed. I've mentioned these a couple times in my videos, but these are super cheap to find. Unfortunately, a lot of players have passed away that are in this set, so you're not going to be able to get the whole set signed or anything like that, but it's a very neat set to have. All right, moving on to the last one. This one is postmarked from New York, and this is former New York Jets great Marty Lyons on one. A second Legends card, so something positive to say about the Jets despite their season. A pro set, and this one is one of my favorites. This is the College All-American set that came out not too long ago, and as you can see, he actually inscribed this one College Football Hall of Fame 2011. He also put the date on when he signed on these, and as you can see, I'm a little bit behind on sharing my successes, as these are dated from July of this past year, but I sometimes don't get to my mail right away, especially when it's non-baseball sports. So let me tell you a little bit about Marty Lyons. Standing at 6'5", defensive tackle, defensive end Marty Lyons played for the Alabama Crimson Tide. He was selected in the 1979 draft in the first round by the Jets, and he immediately made an impact with the Jets, appearing in many games for them. He spent his entire 11-year career with the New York Jets. He was part of the New York Sack Exchange, and if you recall, I did a video on Abdul Salam, and I'll put that up in the corner here or at the end of the video, so if you can check that out, you can learn about him, about the New York Sack Exchange. He became a College Football Hall of Famer. He was elected to the College Football Hall of Fame. Over his career, appeared in 147 games with 29 sacks. He won the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award in 1984, and he, of course, is part of the New York Jets Ring of Honor. He did lose a season in 1987 when during the offseason, he was in a car accident with his family, so he wasn't able to come back for the 87 season. However, he did bounce back, and of the 147 games that he played in his career, he was a starter in 135 of them. So I'm very happy to get Mr. Lyons back. This, again, is one of those guys you could argue belongs in the Hall of Fame. I know I say that a lot in my videos. Just like Randy Cross here, he's one of those all-time great type players that is just often overlooked. And I want to thank Mr. Cross for signing. I want to thank Mr. Lyons for signing. I especially want to thank Mr. Zorn for signing as well. I think that it's very neat that he's still involved in football in some capacity in 2020, or at least was before the XFL season ended. So thank you very much for taking the time to watching another video. I really enjoy, like I said, these College All-American cards. Those are really neat once they get signed. Thanks for watching the video, and as always, happy collecting.